Welcome to Concrete Block, your premier source for in-depth analysis and discussion of current events. I'm your host, Walter, and we're glad you're joining us today. As we dive into the world of politics and international relations, we'll be exploring a story that's been gaining traction in recent weeks. In France, a familiar face has re-emerged on the political scene. Dominique de Villepin, the former Prime Minister and foreign policy chief under Jacques Chirac, has launched a new political party called Humanist France. De Villepin, known for his dramatic speech to the United Nations in 2003, opposing the US-led Iraq War, has been gaining popularity in recent months due to his criticisms of Israel's actions in Gaza. De Villepin's party is positioned as a movement aimed at bringing together citizens and promoting ideas, rather than being tied to a specific ideology or faction. He's been attracting support from across the political spectrum, particularly among left-wing voters who appreciate his strong stance on the Middle East conflict. However, it's worth noting that de Villepin's popularity may be somewhat of a paradox. While he's gained attention for his views on international issues, his position on domestic French politics remains less clear. Some analysts argue that his support from left-wing voters may not translate to lasting backing if he were to outline more detailed policies on the economy and social measures. The 2027 French presidential race is still taking shape, with incumbent Emmanuel Macron unable to run for re-election. The far-right leader Marine Le Pen is currently banned from running for public office due to an embezzlement conviction, although she's awaiting an appeals trial that could potentially clear her to run. Meanwhile, other candidates like Edouard Philippe and Jordan Bardella are also vying for position. As we continue to follow this story and its developments, we'll be keeping a close eye on the complexities of French politics and the potential implications for the country's future. We'll be examining the various factors at play and discussing the possible outcomes with experts and analysts. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block, folks. We're diving into the world of international politics and conflict, where the stakes are high and the situation is constantly evolving. Today, we're examining the recent developments in the Middle East, specifically the exchange between the United States, Israel, and Iran. It's been a whirlwind few days, with the Trump administration ordering military strikes on Iranian nuclear sites, followed by a ceasefire announcement, and then more attacks from both sides. The question on everyone's mind is, what's the endgame here? Is this a calculated move to dismantle Iran's nuclear program, or is it a knee-jerk reaction that could lead to further escalation? Now, we've seen reports suggesting that the U.S. intelligence assessments haven't changed significantly, and there's no new intel that would justify these strikes. This has led some to wonder if the Trump administration is indeed making it up as they go along, as one official put it. On the other hand, the White House claims that Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. But here's the thing, we don't know for certain what the outcome of these strikes has been. And an early U.S. intelligence assessment indicates that the bombings may have only set back Iran's nuclear program by a few months. This raises more questions than answers. What does this mean for regional stability? Will we see more retaliation from Iran, or will they choose to negotiate? It's also worth noting that there are voices on both sides of the aisle in the U.S. government who are calling for caution and diplomacy. Representatives like Ro Khanna are advocating for a war powers resolution to prevent unilateral action, while others are warning against the dangers of perpetual conflict. As we navigate this complex web of international relations, it's essential to remember that there are no easy answers. We need to consider multiple perspectives, weigh the evidence, and strive for a nuanced understanding of the situation. So, what can we take away from these developments? For now, it seems that the situation remains fluid, with all parties involved waiting to see how events unfold. As we continue to monitor the situation, one thing is clear: the world is watching, and the consequences of these actions will be far-reaching. Stay tuned for our final story of the day, right here on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block, folks. We're wrapping up today's episode with a thought-provoking discussion on the recent developments in U.S. foreign policy, particularly with regards to the Middle East. As you may know, there have been some significant events unfolding in the region, including the U.S. strikes on Iran. Now, let's dive into the details. The situation is complex, and opinions are divided. On one hand, some argue that the U.S. actions demonstrate a commitment to national security and a willingness to take decisive action against perceived threats. Others, however, express concerns about the potential consequences of such interventions, including the risk of escalation and the impact on regional stability. To provide some context, we've seen a shift in the U.S. approach to foreign policy under the current administration. Some analysts describe this as a more illiberal or self-interested approach, where the focus is on advancing American interests without necessarily considering the broader implications for global governance or human rights. Nate Schenkan, an independent human rights researcher, has written extensively on this topic. He suggests that the U.S. president's mercantilist view of the world prioritizes short-term gains over long-term strategic considerations. This perspective raises important questions about the role of the U.S. in international relations and the potential consequences of its actions. It's also worth noting that the situation in Iran is nuanced, with various factions and interests at play. Any attempts to impose regime change or shape the country's future would likely be met with significant resistance and could have far-reaching repercussions. As we consider these developments, it's essential to approach the topic with a critical and nuanced perspective. We must weigh the potential benefits of U.S. intervention against the potential risks and consider the diverse range of opinions on the matter. Ultimately, the situation in the Middle East is complex, and there are no easy answers. As we move forward, it's crucial to prioritize informed discussion, careful analysis, and a commitment to understanding the diverse perspectives at play. That's all for today's Concrete Block. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay informed.